Thank you, CII and NTU for inviting me to this event. I apologize, I was a few minutes late. I'm very happy to be here, see many old friends, and also to meet for the first time Professor Suresh, Mr. Gopal Krishnan, see my old friend, Mr. Pang. I must confess I haven't really prepared any remarks, but I'll just maybe make some observations that, at a strategic level, there's this natural fit between Singapore, a small in land mass, relatively small in population, relatively wealthy, relatively highly advanced in technology and finance, a regional, if not a global, wealth management center, and with large pension and sovereign assets to invest on the one hand, and a country like India that has almost every variable on the other end of the spectrum: large landmass, large population, relatively underdeveloped, relatively not as sophisticated an education system, huge need for capital, and natural connectivity based on history. Now, if you break that down further to Tamil Nadu, then it accelerates quite a lot, because not only is there a common language, a lot of history of people going back and forth. When I went to Singapore, I think the first time when I was a boy, like 10 or 12 years old, and I already had a whole bunch of family friends who were Singaporean then. And so, the natural connectivity based on the Tamil population, the diaspora, and also in reality in today's world, if you look at much of the labor that drives Singapore is either Bangladeshi or Indian, but a significant portion of that is Tamil, because it's easier for them to get around and work and so forth. So I think if that's the macro picture, my own experience was rather coincidental, in the sense that I worked for a bank that happened to be headquartered in Singapore, and I had a global role, so I was Singapore based. But it became very clear that both of us well focused on each other. If I take the GICs or Temaseks or the big investments or the maple trees or the ascenders or the REITs, there's a natural fit with places like Chennai and Tamil Nadu for those kinds of investors and asset managers and asset creators. And again, we are very happy and very comfortable working with people who we have a long history and a common language or a common culture. So I think it has been somewhat less than ideal for me in the last 17 months or so that I've been in the job, that we haven't been able to do more. In my case, it's just because I've been coming up the learning curve, and I really haven't had much time to think about growth. I'm still fixing the plumbing, so to speak. Thankfully, it's going well. The numbers are looking very good. So we can now transition to the next phase. But I also think in the case of Singapore, I think there have been some hiccups, partly COVID and other things, partly some other transactions that didn't pan out quite so well. So I think there might be a kind of inertia to overcome in starting up. But I'm very happy to say that both Mr. Pang and his predecessor have been very closely working with the government of Tamil Nadu. I happened to pass through Singapore on some other travel earlier this year, and both Senior Minister Tharman and Minister Ishwaran were kind enough to take some time with me. We talked about some prospects. Minister Ishwaran was here, spent a whole day with his whole team, and came home for dinner, which was very kind of him. And so I think, he's invited the Chief Minister and a delegation to Singapore. The Housing Minister was speaking to me the other day. There are 2-3 flagship projects in Chennai that we would very much like to work with Singaporean firms, and the expertise they bring in the REIT and real estate and mixed use real estate and commercial real estate space. So though I'm not quite the right guy technology-wise, I'd also say that I had a very interesting meeting with the Monetary Authority Singapore about the ways we can use fintech to get over some of our credit risk management in a country where there hasn't been the history of unsecured credit risk, or really a timely and predictable dispute resolution mechanism in terms of a judicial system is it's clogged, is very delayed and so forth. So there may be some other ways of getting around validating counterparties and using better technology to do that. So I think all these are very exciting. I must confess that I'm a little surprised and a little disappointed that we haven't been able to accelerate faster than we have, at least since our government came to power. But I suppose it's always hardest to get the ball rolling. After that, it picks up speed. So I'm very excited about the possibilities. I'm sure we'll have a much different perspective a year from now. We'll have many things to talk about. Why don't I stop there and